All right. Good evening and good night, and welcome to the HR Perspective Talk Show. It is what's today's date? Today is Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. My name is David, aka Kimba, aka Christian. Bingy Soup, still on special assignment. What we got going on tonight? We're coming to you from the beautiful island of St. Croix Virgin Islands. Telephone number is kaput still. We're still trying to work that out. This show is coming to you via StreamYard, which is linked to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. What else we got? Click like, click the like, click the share, click the share button. Let everybody know that you are in tune with our show tonight. I want to give a quick shout out to CHS class of 1982. That's the year that Binky Soup and I are representing. Our prayers and his blessings. When you put it all together, you get one perfect love, man. So we do have a special guest tonight in the studio. What's going on here? Here we go. There she is. Virginia Clairmont, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Virginia has been here a few times, talking about many different things. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. How about you?
Okay, man. Just a little hot and bothered, as I said earlier. This summer is super hot.
All of us, yes.
Yeah,
all of
super
us.
hot. And we'll discuss WAPA another time. That's a whole other subject. But Virginia wanted to come on the show tonight to talk about social responsibility and what that means to her and how that could help our community here in the Virgin Islands. So if you look on the bottom of your screen there, Virginia, you'll see that it's to make a difference to the social and economic well-being of our community through our teachings, research, public events, and activities. So you care to expound on that?
Yes. So, this has been a lot on my mind lately about sometimes how we feel we do not have any power to initiate the change that we want to see in our community, when in fact that we do. And we can do that in different ways and at multiple levels. And so, I think as a community, we're at a tipping point in terms of, creating the quality of life that we want for ourselves and the things that we want to see happen in our community, and raising our voices collectively, to make a change.
Mm. Okay. Is that something that I don't know? Could that social responsibility be deemed as something that is wrong as opposed to right?
Possibly. There are different types of social responsibility, right? So there is, so let me just explain that. There is, corporate responsibility in terms of how the things that corporations do to, better the community. There is government responsibility in terms of the things that the government does to, and I say government loosely because it's still a part of, the people in a larger sense, the things that they do to improve the quality of lives of their residents. And then there is social responsibility about what each citizens can do. Now, the thing about social responsibility is overall, it should be about the social and economic well-being of everyone, and not a selective few. When it becomes wrong is when it benefits a selective few and not the greater population.
Okay. So, I mean, in our community here, I mean, do you see it being wrong or not balanced?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's not balanced. Sometimes I think individuals who may be at the lower economic scale get the short end of the stick, not listened to, and often marginalized, and really in a lot of cases, treated as if what they're experiencing doesn't matter because they're not making a contribution to the community. For
Okay.
instance, if you live in public housing, folks automatically feel like you don't work and you're getting free housing, failing to take into consideration that the majority of people who live in public housing work, but
Mm,
they work that job that's $10.50 an hour in the Virgin Islands,
mm,
and may work 30 hours a week. They don't get full-time benefits, and that's not
mm,
a lot of money. So if you were, that's 300, a little over $300 a week before
mm.
taxes come out and everything else that you can pay. Who can live on $1,200 a month?
A month, yeah.
Right. And so we begrudge, sort of these safety nets, which is the responsibility of the government, I feel, and our responsibility to ensure, like, the least among us, do have, housing, do have access to food, do have access to a public education, because those are necessities to ensure, you know, actually equity and parity within our community.
Okay. Now, the whole thing of social responsibility, is that something that comes from the government down, or is that from the residents, the people of a particular territory, state up?
Yes, it comes from the people, the grassroots level, if you want to call it that, because it doesn't have to be a grassroots movement. It can be an individual movement, an individual person taking action for something they believe in, and it
Hmm.
always comes from the bottom up.
The bottom going up. Okay.
Right, because government, systems typically aren't interested in changing.
Okay.
They just want to maintain the momentum of what it is they're doing, and so in order for change to happen, it has to, or be to happen seriously, it has to come from the people. It has to come from the bottom.
Okay. Now you talk about the teaching. When you say teaching, I mean, what are you referring to more specifically?
So you can be involved in social responsibility, like I said, in numerous ways. And when you do, if you are involved in teaching, that, for instance, let's take climate change. You have to have the people who are involved in doing the research, gathering the data, to prove what they're saying is happening. So,
Hmm.
in a sense, that's the research part. And then they then go out to inform the public about this thing that's happening, which
Hmm.
is, the teaching part. That's just a very simple way of kind of explaining, you know, uh, how teaching affects social change. Because
Okay.
you have to have information in order to, you have to have information about what the problem is in order to then implement a solution.
Yeah. So what do you see as the problems in the territory here in the Virgin Islands?
Oh my God, we have uh, so many.
Well,
But the things that,
just
yeah,
give
we
us
have,
the
right,
top three.
right. So the things that concerns me the most, I'll speak for myself. The things that concern me the most is our level of poverty, um, the level of poverty that exists here. Now we
Mm,
have, the poverty level according to what the federal government says, right? If you
mm,
make it below 22,000 dollars a year. I could be wrong about that because I'm really not an expert on this issue, but it's something that is important to me.
mm.
So, and 30% of our population falls within that range, under $22,000 a year, and
Okay.
it's heartbreaking. Now, that number may change depend on the number of household people in your household. But
Mm,
then there's the other section, like the working people living paycheck to paycheck,
mm,
who were seriously affected by the pandemic, or seriously affected by, the cost of living going up, and their salary remains stagnant.
mm.
And sometimes, in this community, we all know that our government has done some things that have, affects people's income.
Mm,
And if you work for the government, right, and that has a huge impact on people's lives. People in the middle who make above 20, 22 to 50, or whatever that range is for the Virgin Islands, aren't most of them aren't able to save.
mm.
They don't have a savings because all of that money is going out, and many of them actually are engaged in what is called an underground economy. So they do something else on the side. They
Mm-hmm.
sell food, they may sell Mary Kay, they whatever it is, so they're sort of like passive entrepreneurs in order to make ends
To make
meet.
ends meet. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Now the other thing too is now you mentioned research,
Mhm.
and I guess you have to do some research in order to sort of understand this whole thing of social responsibility. But when you say research, I mean, what do you mean? You says through our teachings, research.
Right.
What do you mean by research?
So when if a problem presents itself, so let's talk about one issue: transportation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just, transport. If you're poor, getting around is a problem. So public transportation, is an issue. Now, then in order to solve that, then we need to start doing some research on how do we solve that.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to improve our public transportation system, and give poor people access to public transportation so they can go about doing the things in their daily lives. Now,
Okay.
that is a complex issue. It's not as just put some buses on the road. It's a whole transportation and infrastructural issue.
Mm-hmm.
And there are nonprofit organizations or think tanks that are devoted to those very things and figuring out how to implement a robust public transportation across the
Mm-hmm.
country.
Okay.
So that's a again a very simple example of doing research to address a social need.
Okay. Now the next thing you talk about too is this thing called public events.
Right. So public events, protesting.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a protest. It could be Live Aid. Well, that Live Aid, we're going way too back. Global Citizen Concert, because you raise money for a social issue. Again, it could be a global social issue, a
Mm-hmm.
local issue. A bake sale is an activity, an event that you do to address
Mm-hmm.
a social need, because social needs doesn't have to be dire, right? Social need can be, oh, we're raising funds so that these young people can travel, to the mainland to explore and visit, museums and get a cultural immersion someplace else. It can
Okay.
be as simple as that, and you can, do things in order to, to support those initiatives.
Okay. Okay. Do you think we need more? Do we need more public events here?
I think we need, more events that have a distinct, where the goal is to raise awareness. Like we'd have fed all the time, right? But very rarely do you see events that address social issues. And we
Mm,
can do that in a fun way. We can. You can
mm,
have concerts, to raise money for a school, for a park, to address healthcare issues,
mm.
you know, and whatever else. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that I think we could grow on and then do better here in the Virgin Islands. And then there's just general protesting. I sometimes feel that there's a reluctance among Virgin Islanders, or in small communities, period, and especially in small communities that are insular, right, in
Mm,
protesting, because there's a lot of risk.
mm,
When you are deciding you want to address an issue that is important to you, that may not be popular, there is risk that there is going to be some pushback for you. And it could be, through, it could be the risk of your job. It could be the risk of being blackballed in your community, meaning people don't want to deal with you. It could even be the risk of violence,
mm.
emotional, psychological, physical, that sort of stuff. So that's why I think we don't see um,
A lot of protesting.
a lot of protesting, but there are other ways that we can protest that are very clever. I recently saw one form of protest. I thought it was brilliant. So the Frederick said Library closed December 16th, 2015 or 2016,
Yeah,
for
I
an
see. I see a lot. I see a lot of people posting
right.
about that.
Yeah, and it closed December 2016 and never reopened. never reopened. The hurricane came, and the library again got damaged after it was renovated, and it has not, there has been, so the children of Frederickstead have been without a library now, I think, for what is that,
6 years.
6 years, right?
Yeah,
6 whole years. So if you started in the first grade and you could go all the way through Claudio School and have never stepped into a library.
yeah.
Now, what this group did, Act Out Theater, is it Act Out Theater? I want to say it's Act Out Theater. They,
That's Saida.
yes, Aida Carter.
Yeah,
They
her group.
started
Yes,
this
I think it's Act
Facebook
Out or Act Up or something like that. Yeah.
Act Out Ensemble Theater of the Oppressed, I think.
Yes, something
I
like that. Yes.
apologize, Saida, for messing it up. But they did a very clever tactic to raise awareness about this, and they captured the attention of someone on their friends on Facebook with a very provocative intro, and it would say, "Oh, I went to dinner last night" or whatever, and it was fabulous. And by the way, the Frederickstead Library is closed.
It's closed. Yeah, I see. I
Right.
see those. I see those.
Right.
Yes.
And it went, I think it went viral and really started raising awareness, that this is an issue. We don't have full service public libraries on St. Croix. That makes no sense because libraries are just not for checking out books. Libraries are social centers. Libraries are job centers. Libraries are cooling centers. You talk about, it hot, how awesome would it be if someone could just go in a library, for a couple of hours a day and just chill out, and during this heat. Libraries are homework centers, they're educational centers. There's so many things. So that campaign, I just felt like put so much pressure, on DPNR to address these issues. It was just very easy. It didn't take much. It just took sitting at your keyboard and starting something, and it raised awareness about this issue.
Yeah. Is the Christian Library open?
It is not. I think it is.
Okay, so they're both closed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I grew up
not as long.
Yeah, when I was growing up here, going to the library after school was what we did. Me and my brothers did, because I went to St. Mary's, and when school finished at 2:33, we all go along with other kids. We'd go down to the library in Christiansted, and that's where I don't know that we were doing a whole lot of studying and reading, but that's where a lot of kids went to. And at 5:30, I used to walk back up the road to where my mom worked at, and then from there we would just drive home. But I actually have a library card, a current library card.
Right. But you know what you just said? You just said that you and your friends learn how to engage with each other socially, right? And to navigate each other in a social environment, which is so important for young people, to have a space where they can do that safely.
Yes.
It just can't be the school environment, and it's not just a school environment. It's just not the playground. It's being able to sit in a space, and engage in and I'm sure the conversation was robust, right? When you were sitting civil and robust, and we need spaces where young people can do that.
Yeah, the library was it's a good experience. I mean, obviously there was no internet and there was no cell phones, so you were literally forced to go there and get a book.
Learn how to use
and sit on there and read.
Yeah, to learn how to use the Dewey Decimal System, right?
Yes.
To find a book that you wanted to read, or exactly. Libraries, I think, back in the day also had comic books.
Yes.
I could tell you in Frederickstead, a lot of us have memories too of going to the library almost every day, after school and sometimes on weekends, to check out books. But one of my best memories about the libraries, that's where I encountered National Geographic.
Yes.
And discovered the world.
Yes.
Right. So, like I said, it's learning centers, and the fact that it's been closed for 6 years now.
Yeah.
And people just it's not a big deal because nobody goes to libraries anymore, but yes they do. Yes they do. And libraries open up the world. It opens up your young people to the world and to things that they couldn't even imagine that exist, because it's not here.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I first came back to St. Croix, I was dating a young lady there, and we used to take her daughter to the library on Saturday morning. I said, we got to go to the library. I mean, that's just kind of a thing that you do. I mean, it's, get a library card, you get a book, you sit down there, and, you enjoy the
Parents reading
library.
to, yeah, reading to that young, young child, right?
Yeah,
And those are meaningful connections,
yeah. Oh, yeah,
right? Meaningful engagement. And that's building communities. That what that is, right?
yeah,
Libraries allow us to build community.
yeah,
Because when you go in there, you're not you're sometimes you're starting to engage in with other people
yeah,
about stuff that's happening, you know, in the community
yeah, yeah. And
while you're there with them, right? So you just not it's not just calling in on a radio show. It's actually face to face contact,
mhm,
and observing people so you could see the full body language, and those kind of things are important, and being
yeah,
able to touch someone too.
yeah. And you mentioned too the magazine, the National Geographic
Mhm.
magazine. If I go, for example, to a doctor's office now and I see one, that's the first thing I grab is that magazine because I
Right,
remember that from back in the day,
from
and it's
back
just
in
a
the
good,
day.
colorful magazine with a lot of good pictures and just a
Mhm.
whole bunch of articles on just things
Right.
that are just good to know.
And our children, or the young people in the Virgin Islands now, should be having that very same experience.
Yeah,
They should have the experience of discovering a magazine, a newspaper, or something that's of interest to them that opens up opportunities for them as well.
yeah. So we have a comment here, Virginia. So if you look at your screen on the bottom, you should see it there.
The
Person
schools
is
have
saying schools
library
have
too.
libraries too.
Yeah. Not all of them do, and they're not as robust as a public library. So
Okay.
we want to think that schools have libraries and internet access. Not all of them do, and sometimes the resource manuals, meaning if you need to do research, they're outdated.
Mm, mm,
So I wouldn't say trust, that you could get the information you need, at the school library. But then I will say libraries are I just said it, libraries are more than just about books. It is,
mm.
it is a job center, it's a learning center, it's a homework center, it's a cooling center where, people who don't have AC, can go for a few hours to take a break from, this heat that's making you hot and bothered.
Yeah,
And so much more.
yeah, yeah. We got another comment just popped in here. Take a look at your screen there, Virginia.
I won't disagree with that. They can be, and they absolutely should be. So yeah, I agree. Dr. Bryson, yes, school libraries should be updated, and we should be um, investing, in
Yeah,
our school libraries. But I,
yeah.
I can't speak for all of the libraries, but some of them that I have seen, I'm like this, they're more can
So,
be.
so if I could ask, what is the outcome of this campaign that Saida's group was doing? I mean, has that
So
drawn the attention of the governor, or I mean, how far up has that gotten?
I'm not exactly sure, but I can tell you that I was walking past the Frederick Said Library a couple of days ago, and the doors were opened. Doors were open, and there was a big old what do you call it? Those bins outside. So I guess they're now cleaning up, removing the books that got damaged during the Hurricane Maria.
Okay.
And so that's something. And I don't
Yeah.
think that would have happened because, there's been conversations and, addressing these issues, right? Like the library is closed, right?
Hmm.
You need to do something. The library is closed. Um, but I want to say part of being socially responsible and engaging in, trying to promote change, sometimes the movement is slow,
Hmm.
right? It takes a while to build up. And then you will have an explosive thing happen, or there is like someone lights a torch, and then
Hmm.
the issue gets addressed. One way that we saw that is with Black Lives Matter, because Black people have been saying for a very, very long time, these are the issues that we're facing. This is the kind of violence that happens to us. And
Hmm.
until we saw it with our own eyes, on the television or computer or whatnot, that sparked a flame, and people mobilized uh,
Okay.
across the globe, to initiate, you know, change in regards to racial justice.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
when you are engaged in social responsibility, one, it could just be a one-time act. It could just be one individual. Well, I shouldn't say. Well, it could be a one-time act, right? You do something
Okay.
nice for your neighbor, right? Your neighbor needs a babysitter. Oh, I'll do it for you, no problem
Mm,
this time, right? So that's social responsibility.
mm,
Or you can decide, I don't like this trash in my neighborhood, so whenever I go out for a walk, I'm going to clean up, my along my walking trail. A lot of people do that. That is, social responsibility. And
mm,
then there are, group activities, things that, an issue that means a lot to, the greater community, and so you have more people who are mobilizing or engaged
mm.
to make that change happen.
Okay. Yeah. If I could read something here, something I just got off the internet. I just did a Google search on social responsibility, but it says here, what is social responsibility? Uh, Because working for the community, such as volunteering, giving blood donations, and working at a food bank or animal shelter, supporting issues that affects society, such as advocating political or social issues that can help others. For example, advocating for child labor laws,
Mhm.
purchasing fair trade products, recycling.
Mhm.
I think you kind of
Yes,
touched a little bit on that just a few
right.
seconds ago.
Like purchasing fair trade products, that's passive social responsibility, right? So oh, this is a cruelty free product. I will support them because that corporation is also being socially responsible, and it could be that's all you do, but at least it's doing something.
Mm,
Yeah. So, I want to touch on I have some numbers here because, a big part of social responsibility is volunteering and all of the things that you mentioned, but it could also be volunteering on a board,
mm,
right? For an organization or providing pro bono services. It could be a lot of different things. But in terms of, when you look at the things that individuals do to make to for a better community, right? For a better quality of life.
mm,
I actually found out today that across the globe, volunteers, the value of their time is equal to $11.6 billion.
mm.
Right? That's how
B.
much billion, right?
Yes.
So the value of your volunteerism. So, if Dr. Lawyer, Indian Chief, however you are volunteering at whatever level, the
Mm,
collective value of that across the globe is $11.6 billion. It has value.
mm,
And I can tell you for some of the things that we do, to fill the gap where the government isn't doing it as volunteers
mm.
or people who are engaged in the community, that means something. That's a lot of hours. I think it comes down to something like 406. What was it? I'm sorry, I had to look at this number. 407 million. Yeah, million hours
Mm.
um, of donated time.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And that's huge. That,
Yeah.
that's 11.6 billion the government may not have.
Mm,
Um, the organization that I founded, our volunteers in the last 8 years have contributed about 5,000 hours and $500,000 in services
mm.
to the community. Doing
Yeah.
cleanups, creating artwork, um, a host of other volunteer stuff. Our Children's Book and Film Festival. Providing, giving their time for that or donating money. To
Mm,
projects that we have that benefit, the Frederiksted community. And it's not just us. There's the contributions that people make to organizations, in the Virgin Islands.
mm.
Fills a huge gap. Not for
Yeah.
nothing. It matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Volunteering is a big thing. I remember many years ago, my mom,
Mhm.
and I think this whole thing of volunteering came about back when Bill Clinton was president. I think one of his initiatives was to volunteer your time. I mean,
Actually, it's been a before that because I used to work for a organization in 1993 that called the Points of Light Foundation, and then before that was during it was founded based on George Bush, the first George Bush.
Okay.
He made a speech about the 1,000 points of light,
Okay.
and they sort of formed this national organization that promotes volunteerism. But then before that, there was this thing called I want to say it's a national network of volunteer centers,
Okay.
because pretty much every state
Mhm.
at some point had a volunteer center. So
Okay.
it was locally run, but the collectively, that's where you would go to get volunteer opportunities, or find out what's happening, where the need was, and then they would say, oh, you would decide what's a good fit, and then you would go
Mhm.
out and do that thing.
Yeah.
But it did take off with Bill Clinton. You're absolutely right, because he then formed the Corporation for National Service,
Okay. Okay.
right? Now, engages in a lot of and supports volunteerism across the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And my mom always felt too, and it's true. And it hasn't personally happened to me, but you volunteer wherever, and
Mhm.
that ultimately may turn into a paying job. It could
It
turn into
has
a
for
paying
me.
job.
It has for me.
Okay. Okay.
Right. It has for me. So, not only do you feel good, it's good for your mental health. Volunteering is good for your physical health, but it can also be good for your financial health,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? In
You.
terms of, you may become employed because you volunteer
Yeah.
with an
You
organization.
volunteered maybe at a place for a couple of months, and
Mhm.
somehow now they have a position that is paying, and you're able to sort of just get in there, and now you're on a payroll.
Right. Right. So, I would say don't knock volunteerism. The other, I want to just expand on the volunteerism part, but the other side of social responsibility is philanthropic giving,
Hmm.
right? And in the United States, charitable contributions come up to $466 billion. So every year, individuals and corporations donate $466 billion to help nonprofits, you know,
Hmm.
um, Boys and Girls Clubs, some, museums, grassroots organizations
Hmm.
um, do their good work. Now, here's the interesting part. $326 billion of that money is donated by individuals. The
Mm.
rest, about 91 billion, is donated by corporations. So
Okay.
people give, right? People are generous in giving. And it doesn't matter really, because I think sometimes we think that you have to be rich to give. You really don't. If you got
Hmm.
$1, that's what you give. If you have
Hmm.
$5, that's what you give. But
Yeah.
collectively, it makes a huge difference, right? In organizations that are trying to do good work and fill the gap,
Hmm.
uh, or the need that
Yeah.
exists within our community.
Yeah. Yeah. On my note here, on my cheat sheet here, there's four types of social responsibility. There's environmental,
Hmm.
there's ethical,
Hmm.
and philanthropy, which you just spoke about,
Hmm.
and then there's economic, which is part of what we're talking about
Right.
too.
So that would include the volunteerism.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And all of them, have a huge impact on our quality of life. Now, I
Yes.
think sometimes where the hiccup comes is that we think that social responsibility, the things that we need, should rest fully on government,
Hmm.
right? Um, but you know, the role of government really is for the protection of um, of the community, of the people that the residents, or whatever you want to call it, and also to provide public services, some public services. So
Yes.
it wouldn't make sense for a company to be responsible for the transportation infrastructure of our country. That wouldn't make sense. But
Hmm.
a company can, run a hospital. The government
Yes.
doesn't need to be responsible for that.
Hmm.
So, but behind the government, so when we talk about government and social responsibility, the stewards of that, right? The thing is that the people elect the folks who we think will manage our resources. So it still comes down to people anyway. We put
Yeah.
people in place temporarily, temporarily because it isn't long term, to manage our resources. And then if they're not doing a good job managing our resources, we can remove them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so sometimes I hear politicians say, "I have money in the bank." No, you don't. No, you don't. That's the people's money,
Yeah.
right? Even when we get money from the federal government, that's not their money. That's the taxpayers of the United States money. And we
Money.
have an obligation to manage those resources ethically and effectively and efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when that's not being done, we can hold the individuals who are mismanaging or not properly managing those funds. We can hold them accountable,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or when funds are returned, as we know happens here because they weren't used. There's
Yes.
accountability for that. The
Mm-hmm.
people, sometimes I feel like we think there's nothing we can do because when I can tell you a couple of things that happen when we raise awareness about an issue. Um, folks attempt to shut down a conversation
Mm-hmm.
by saying things like, "No one else is complaining," but I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you, if you are complaining about it, someone else is as
Okay.
well. And if they're not saying it loudly, they're thinking about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or you know, there's nothing we can do, and that's automatically stops a thing from happening. But there's always something you can do.
Okay.
And then if an individual doesn't know, like if we don't know, like I know there's something I can do, but I don't know exactly how to go about a thing, right? That's when you start to ask questions. I want to know how to change this. I do a lot of I go on the internet a lot to if I have something that's above my pay grade, an issue that I don't quite understand. I find out what other people. I go on the internet to research what other people are doing in other places,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then then work to figure out how we can implement that change here. Now,
Here in the
having
Virgin
said
Islands.
that, yeah, having said that, again, I will reiterate that sometimes change is slow, right? We will put in the work, but you may be the first wave, right? You're the person that's saying, "Hey, this is happening, and something needs to be done about it." And then
Mm-hmm.
somebody else comes along and then builds on that, and it could be 30 years later, right? Or it could be the next day and says, "Yeah, this is an issue, and here's what we can do," right? And then then starts to lay down some sort of plan to get the thing done. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have another wave of individuals who could be another 30 years, but they get the thing done.
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
So, change, when we start an issue, we may think and I feel this way as well. We may feel like, what's the point? Nothing is going to change. But yes, it is. It just may not happen in our lifetime. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we got another comment here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, um, uh, Dr. Bryson. I love Frederickstead, and I feel like Frederickstead deserves all the nice things, and so what I do for Frederickstead comes from the heart. Frederickstead is really, really my first love.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say, right? Virginia, West is the best.
Best is best, right? 100%.
And I don't want to thank you too, because I know you've been working hard, just doing many different types of things just to add a little color, a little excitement, just the whole beautifying, whatever way, whatever people you have brought in, and
Mhm.
just the local people, even up to just painting trash cans and putting it back on the corner just makes the whole corner look colorful,
The difference, yeah. You could do some very really small things, but I think the thing for me that I think was the most meaningful in all of the stuff that we have done in terms of mobilizing volunteers is cleaning up Frederickstead, because the amount
Mm-hmm.
of trash that existed in this community was, almost criminal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to have so many people come in and say, we're, to participate in cleaning up that town, that was huge for me. And to see, even though, we do from time to time see trash start to creep back, I
Mm.
think people now are just like, no, this community clean. We want it clean. We want it to don't do that. You
Yeah, we
know,
want to keep it clean now.
we want to keep it clean.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that is the, yeah, for of all the work that I've done, in the past 8 years, that is the most meaningful to me.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. Okay, so what else do we have when it comes to social? Let me look at my other cheat sheet here. Maybe there's something that stands out. And we don't want to hit on corporate
No.
so like
Yeah,
as a whole.
corporate, yeah, that's a corporate responsibility is a whole nother thing. It gets very complex.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's performative.
Okay.
It's not real. It's just, a kid. Well, let me just give you an example of bad social responsibility.
Okay.
Juneteenth is now a national holiday. And what do corporations do? Create products to sell, about Juneteenth.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Why don't you give to organizations,
Yeah.
right, who have been doing the work or who are engaged in, racial justice,
Mm.
or doing the work to address poverty in our country? Do that instead of,
Mm.
using a sacred holiday like that, because I think it's sacred, you know,
Mm.
for your financial gain. That is
Financial
not
gain.
good. Yeah, that's not good corporate responsibility at all.
Mm. I got you. I got you. All right. Our guest tonight is Virginia Clairmont. She has been talking about social responsibility and what we have to do to make that better. Um, what does she say here? Making a difference to the social and economic well-being of our community. Our community here is the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, but in particular, I guess St. Croix. That's where Virginia is, and that's where the
Even yeah,
Introspective Talk Show studio is.
even
Uh,
more specifically, because I have to say this right. Even more specifically, Frederick said,
yes.
right? Because that's always, I'm always like Frederick said, and by extension, everybody else.
Okay. Okay. I got you. But well-being of our community through our teachings, research, public events, and activities.
Mhm.
And Virginia had took the time to sort of explain in a little bit more detail what each of those particular segments were. And I guess we all it's a community effort. Everybody has to take their piece of the pie and just
And
be more.
decide how you want to make a difference. And I have to say this, like, you may find an issue that you're passionate about, and you want to do something about, and work on it, for years. But sometimes, you can outgrow that issue, and that's perfectly fine. So, for instance, if you have children, who are school age, right, addressing, education, issues might be your passion for a while. Your
Mm,
children grow up and no longer in school, you may want to change it to something else,
yes.
if you want to do that, right?
Yeah.
May want to change. There may be an environmental issue that's passionate to you, and then you solve that environmental issue, right?
Mm,
And then you're no longer needed. So the thing about, when you're engaged in social responsibility, it could be a one-time thing,
mm,
right? Or it could be a lifetime
yeah.
thing. It could be a one-time donation, or it could be, a lifetime donation. It could be, it could, like I said, it could just be you doing one thing that nobody is noticing, right? Because you just do it, and I see it all the time here. It could be even as simple, because this has happened to me. It can be even as simple as giving somebody who's short of change
Mm,
what they need to make that purchase,
mm,
right? I was on a taxi bus one time and I couldn't find 50 cents. I was digging in the back of my bag, and somebody reached over and put it in my hand,
mm,
right? That is being, engaging in, social responsibility, because you're looking out for the well-being, you know, of another citizen. Or,
mm.
the folks who, I plant, some pumpkin and I have a lot, I coming over to give you some, right? That's social responsibility. So, it's not always, these big massive things that we think they are,
Mm,
engaging in, the well-being, of our community. For the most part, it's everyday It's the everyday little things that we do
Mm.
to help each other. The,
Yes.
and the interesting thing I want to say about that too is what you find is that the people who are more generous are the poorer people. They give more, right? In terms of if you do like comparison to what they have, they tend
Mm.
to give more,
Mm.
in uh, to neighbors or to an organization or for an effort than wealthy people
Okay.
do, you know, in terms of their relation to their income.
To the income, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And and that moves me, right? And the reason for that is because they're close to the problem and they understand. They're empathizing with the struggle, so to speak.
Mm.
And right, they're empathizing with the struggle and they understand why this need may be great for you. One of
Mm.
the things that sometimes I see and I have to call it out, right? Again, I'll just go back to if you're poor, and well, I see this happen all the time. So there's a food giveaway and you're doing it at a central location and I'll come drive by. Well, hello, if you are making 10.50 an hour and and you don't have a car because you can't afford one, how are you going to get there? And you're the
Mm.
person that needs this the most.
Mm.
Instead of us going to where the need is, we
Mm.
will tell the needy sometimes to come to us,
Mm.
you know, which doesn't make sense to me, but it does in a way because sometimes, this middle income people don't understand that I can't get there.
You can't
Now,
get there, yeah.
the flip side of that, right, is that you will have a neighbor that's looking out for you,
Mm.
a friend, or they're doing this, you know,
Mm.
let's go, or I will get some for you. I will pick it up for you and bring it to you.
Okay.
That's, there's a filling of, the gap. But I sometimes think um, that, when we are engaged in doing good work, we should really think about how we execute that from the perspective of the least among us,
Okay.
right? How will this affect the least among us? And then you think about all the obstacles, for someone who may need a service and remove those obstacles so that it can be easy um, for those individuals to access it.
Okay. Okay. Understood, man. I understood. It's important. It makes a better community all the way around. So I appreciate that. Our guest tonight is Virginia Clairmont. We're talking about social responsibility and what it is and how to apply it to make our community better than what it is. We
Mhm.
strive to be better, so social responsibility is important.
Yeah, we gotta strive every day because yeah, sometimes you want to be real selfish, right? I don't want to get out the bed,
It's, e-
right?
it's, e- it's easy to be selfish.
It's very easy to be selfish, so you got to continuously work on being your brothers and sisters keeper,
Keeper, yep.
right? Checking in on each other. It's very easy to be like, I don't, it's very easy to drink water and mind your business.
Yep.
Very easy to do that, right?
I
Very
got you.
easy. But here's I'm going to use this term because I say it all the time. Therefore, by the grace of God, goes I. That could be you tomorrow.
Mhm.
Things happen. Um, and so, I think, when you have, or, when you see a problem or an issue that exists in our community, we should think about that, right? Like that could be me
Yep.
very easily.
Very easily. Yep.
Right. And do what you can. Again, it doesn't have to be, something huge. It just do what you can. If you see something is happening, uh, tell someone, right? If you feel like I don't know what to do, right? But we all know that, there's somebody, who could, like tell someone and ask, what can I do to solve this problem? Because even someone like me who is engaged in an organization that is about, supporting or involved in the economic development of Frederickstead through grassroots initiatives, I
Mm-hmm.
don't always know, right? I don't always know how to solve a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, um, what needs to be done, or who even is even the right person, to do a thing. There's a lot of I don't know, and asking questions, and what do I need to do, and then what's the next step, and then following it through. And I will absolutely have to say, if you ever encounter there is nothing I can do, don't stop there.
Don't stop there. Yeah.
Don't stop there.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. There
Mm-hmm.
always is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just keep asking, and keep pushing and keep doing, because there's always something we can do to address hunger in our community, to address, the fact that we don't have a library, to address the fact that some of our school libraries are not the best, you know, to, clean up the spaces where we live, plant trees, a whole lot we can do. And we don't have to wait for, the government to tell
For
us
the
to do.
government to help, yeah, we can do that on our own.
We
Yeah.
could do that on our own,
Yeah.
right? And the things that we can't do on our own, that's the government's responsibility. We can tell them too.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you need to do. This thing, and if you don't, the lowest hanging fruit I think about of social responsibility, the lowest hanging fruit of them all is your vote.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is show up someplace, to the what do you call it, the elections office,
Yeah.
show them your ID, register to vote, and then vote.
Mm-hmm.
That is the lowest hanging fruit, for change. If you do not support or provide meaningful change for something that is important to me, I can decide I no longer want you to be my representative or the steward of, the people's resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, the work that, in my opinion, the work that you're doing is not benefiting the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And I see in that you're not getting my vote again. That's me personally. And I don't give people 2 or 3 terms. I give you one. You got
Yeah.
one time. And if
Yeah.
I don't see a passion to try to um, implement change, and I don't mean like, oh, you go hold a beach cleanup. I don't need you to do that. There are organizations that are doing that,
They'll do
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I need you to actually, do the governance and, create the laws or whatever else needs to be done from our governing body to improve the quality of life of the people of the Virgin Islands.
Yep.
Period.
That's it. Virginia, thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thanks for having me. I know this is totally different from what we usually talk about. I appreciate you giving me the grace to talk about it, because it's just been something that's been weighing very heavily on my heart. And I just want us to feel like we are empowered, and that, or to know, actually, not even to feel, to know that we are empowered no matter what anyone tells you, right? The power lies with the people. And then we can make a difference no matter, by doing something small or big. We
Okay.
all can make a difference.
Yeah. If we all chip in,
Hmm.
we all can make a big difference. We all
Exactly.
chip and make a big difference. I understand.
$11.6 billion worth of a difference.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Well, if everybody here chipped in $1, I mean, we'd have what, $90,000. We got $90,000, 90,000 people in the population, I guess,
Right.
or 100. Let's go to 100,000,
Yeah.
make it a fair number. We'd have $100,000 that could be applied to fix something,
Mhm.
or purchase
That's a
something.
whole lot of painted trash cans.
Yeah, or do
Right.
something that's meaningful to the
Right.
community.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, like I said, I think sometimes we feel like, oh, I can't afford it. I can't do it or whatever. If you can't afford to give financially, you can afford to give your time.
Yeah, you volunteer your time. Yep,
Mhm.
yep. Virginia Clairmont is our guest tonight. Thank you so much for coming on the It's Your Perspective Talk Show. If I could just say real quick, we're live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. until. That's AST time. We're coming to you via StreamYard, which links us into Facebook, YouTube. And Twitter. On Twitter, you got to link us up there at what we call VI Perspective. Be sure to like and click on the notification bell on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook so that when we go live, you get a notification that we are live so you can tune into the show. What else we got? I think that's it. Our prayers and his blessings equals one perfect love. Once again, I'd like to thank Virginia Clairmont for coming on and just sharing with us her views, her opinions, her concerns about a lot of things. We have her back. She's been on before many times because she's always got good stuff to talk about, and we always appreciate Virginia. On that note, we're out. Everybody have a safe, cool evening. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be another hot day. On that note, we're out. Peace.